Hello, and welcome to the 2020 Volunteer Workshop. While I'm really sorry that we can't all be together this week here in Mobile, I am grateful that technology is going to allow us to share ideas on how to continue making the mission of Distinguished Young Women happen in so many communities in all 50 states across the nation. I'm going to open today's workshops with a detailed explanation of the digital format. As everyone knows, earlier this year, we rolled out our Flexible Format Local initiative. This was designed for small committees and individuals to be able to host a local program in a community where there wasn't very much program recognition, and thus they had very few volunteer and monetary resources. So while it was initially designed to be used for the flexible format local level, it is also being used because of the pandemic at state levels. But I do want to encourage everyone to stay on top of your community's public health recommendations and procedures so that you can utilize whatever mix of in-person and digital components that works best for your classes and for the volunteers. Now we're going to look at each category of evaluation and how they are handled under the digital program format. Scholastics is done the same way it is at every other level, where the participants are given the instructions for the academic record form and the academic record form to be returned to the judge's chair from the school. Now, in a digital program, the girls are probably not going to have paper copies given to them. And so what I have designed, and you'll find in the resources section of the online library, is a customizable instruction form where you can put down how you want the girls' schools to return the information to you, whether it be email or fax, and it needs to come back to your judge's chair. There's also a fully fill-in version of the actual academic record form that can be emailed to the schools to be filled out. Again, these need to be returned to the judge's chair via email from an official school address or faxed from the school fax number with a school cover sheet. Okay, the next category we're going to talk about is interview. The interviews will be done the same as they always are, but instead of being in person, you will do those through video conferencing. Since the pandemic has happened, we've all become Zoom experts, and so either Zoom or the Google Meets are both platforms that I think are well suited to video conferencing for interviews. I do want to add in here that when we put this out, we put out that you could use 3, 4, or 5 judges in a digital program. For local programs, I think that's still valid. I think 3 or 4 is just fine for a local program. If you are a state program who is going to have to use a digital format, I would recommend you use 4 or 5. It's not mandatory, but I would try to get 4 or 5 if I was a state program. Okay, for talent and fitness, the participants will learn either a shortened version of a fitness routine or a fitness sequence, which is in essence, a individual spotlight. And then they will submit that to the judge's chair, and they'll submit a 90-second talent to the judge's chair. Then the judge's chairs will then submit them to someone who can create an evaluation video. More on that later. Okay, and then the 5th category is self-expression. Initially, when we brought out the flexible format local program, we thought that it would be a good idea to do the self-expression presentation to the judges at the same time or around the same time that they were doing interviews. We have since found out that if you do the interview and then put the girl in the waiting room to let her kind of get her thoughts together and then bring her back in, that it just feels like an extension of the interview. So after talking to people, we have found that if you are going to do self-expression through your judge's video conference, that you also use interview, have the girls come in and do their self-expression first. And then once they are finished with their self-expression, then you can either give them, a couple of seconds to collect their thoughts, or you can just launch right into the interview. Alternately, you can also have the girls have them submit a video of them delivering their self-expression speech. That's totally up to you. Okay, now let's talk about the video submissions. I have my girls, I tell them not to do anything fancy, just in the interest of getting the videos done. I ask them to have someone else video them. That way they end up having, themselves in the full screen during the whole video. And it's always a good idea to have them turn their phones sideways so that it's a horizontal orientation for the video. But what I do is I tell them, just take a phone video and text it to me or email it to me, just send it to me. The video file itself, whichever you prefer. Once you have all of the girls' videos for talent, fitness, and or self-expression, if you're going to be doing it via video evaluation, I can then take those videos and create a category evaluation video and then upload it as an unlisted YouTube link. Or I can send you the actual video file if you prefer to do it that way. The reason you want to do this is, one, that way the judges are not having to watch a whole bunch of little tiny videos put together. And it's because that makes it easier for the judges chair to control the evaluation and scoring. We want to make it as close to an in-person showcase as possible when it comes to scoring. The judges need to only watch the evaluation video one time in real time. They shouldn't pause it, they shouldn't slow it down and watch it in slow motion, and they shouldn't watch it multiple times. That's where it's nice to be able to have all the videos for a category all together so that the judges can watch and score as if they would in a live showcase situation. I can also create for you showcase videos, which basically for the talent videos, I could just add in where you can have your MCs read the girls' bios in between, or if you wanted to do a fitness routine, what I can do is take a little bit of each video, each girl performing the fitness routine, and put it together, kind of like what you saw last night in the first preliminary fitness. Talking about the judges for your program, I think all of you know that we recommend that you not use new or unexperienced judges for a digital program. One of the beauties of the digital program is that your judges don't have to travel and be in your community, in your showcase venue. So you have a much wider judges pool, and I have a digital judges list that is available in the resources section of the online library. I update it monthly, and all you have to do is contact people off of there, and as long as they are available when you need them to be, then you can have judges from pretty much any place in the nation. Remember that there is a judges orientation video now available on my National Field Director YouTube channel. If you don't have the link, just let me know and I'll send it to you. It's a good idea to play that for the judges so that they have a good understanding of how we judge, because even though we are allowing a lot of flexibility in how you run your program, we want to maintain the same judging criteria and standards so that the program retains its evaluation integrity. As I mentioned before, someone from the Judges Committee needs to control the evaluation video viewing. In the event that you cannot share the screen and show them the video via a Zoom conference or a Google Meet conference, what I recommend you do is to send them each evaluation video one at a time. Give them, say if the video is 15 minutes, say you have 20 minutes from the time you receive this, or send your scores back to the tabulators. They will be scoring on one-page score sheet instead of the individual category ballots. Although I suppose you could use the category ballots if you want. I just find that it's much easier for them to use the one page. They can record each category, and then they can submit that one-page score sheet directly to the tabulator as soon as you are done with all of your evaluation categories. If you do your digital program in that they do all of their interviews on one day and then they watch all the video submissions on another day, go ahead and have them send in the scoring for each category as it's complete. And what you're going to have them do is to email or text a screenshot of their score sheet directly to the tabulator. If you have a program that that's going to be doing some sort of finalist format, or if you're just done and you're ready to have your deliberation, that is all done via video conferencing. It's done the same way you would do it in person. You're just doing it on Zoom. The only difference is that if needed, I do want to allow for each judge to speak for up to 60 seconds instead of just the 30. And the only other thing that I want to remind you all when you're dealing with your judges is that you need to stress to them that because all of this stuff is happening not in real time, and so they're going to know, who the finalists are or who the top 3 are or who the category winners are probably before you announce it to the community and your class. You need to hammer in during your judges' orientations that everything that goes on in the evaluation process is confidential. We do not discuss what goes on in deliberations. We do not discuss scoring. We do not discuss anything that involves the evaluations. Now I have some just miscellaneous things that don't actually go into any category. A lot of programs are doing live award ceremonies through a video conferencing, Zoom, that sort of thing. There are several that have been recorded that people are sharing, so let me know if you are interested in seeing any of those. There have been some really creative ones, and I've been really super impressed with the creativity that's coming out of the Volunteer Corps. Similarly, you can do showcase videos. I can do them for you if you don't have somebody in your production team that can do that. And I do want to remind everyone, do not record any showcase videos as a public YouTube link. And because once you make it a public YouTube link, you are going to run into music licensing problems, which may get you slapped with a lawsuit. If you want a small program book, I have several templates that I can make you a small program book that you can have printed for your girls, or I don't know if anybody is going to be able to have, a showcase situation or a live award ceremony where you would want to have those, but I can definitely do that. As far as websites go, I know there's been some discussion about selling ad space on the web. We can definitely do that, and I can create some sponsor pages for you. I can also set up a donations page for your website, and all it requires is that you first set up some sort of online payment account, PayPal, Square, we could even do Venmo or Cash App, I suppose. But if you have some sort of means of collecting an online payment or an online donation, let me know and we can set that up for you on your website as well. Thank you again to everyone for joining us for the workshops. We have some more great presentations coming up right after this one. But I just wanted to let y'all know that if you have any questions about what I discussed or what any of the upcoming presenters are going to discuss, just make notes of them and then we will try to get them answered during the breakout sessions that start tomorrow. If you need the link for the sign-up sheets, go ahead and email me and I can send them to you. Remember that we are limiting it to 20 people per session. We have 4 sessions right now. We can add more if we have more people who want to sign up, then we have slots. And we will start tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central Time. And the sign-up sheets have all the other time zones because I'm not good with those and can't do them in my head. And then we will have another one Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. Central Time. And then Monday and Tuesday, we will be back at 1 p.m. Central Time. So I hope to see all of you in some of these Zoom sessions, and thank you again. Enjoy the next presentation.
Hi friends, my name is Arian. I was Distinguished Young Woman of America for 2018. Today I bring to you some of my own, in addition to Dora Guo, the Distinguished Young Woman of America for 2019, our thoughts and ideas on how to build a Distinguished Young Woman community through Zoom, or if you will, a Zoomunity. Sorry, I love bad puns. I could not stop myself. But in all seriousness, the pandemic has changed the way that we do the things that we love. One of the most important parts in my time as a distinguished young woman of the experience was the community aspect. Dora and I have both put our heads together to come up with some of the following ideas to hopefully help each of you in your respective state and local programs still bring the participants and volunteers together in a community that they will not forget. I have 3 ideas that include partner introductions, Kahoot trivia, and hopes and fears activity that I will be presenting today. And then I will close us out with some things to think about when translating the Distinguished Young Women experience to Zoom. For an introductory activity, the very first community building activity that you'd complete as a group, you can do partner introductions. I think partner introductions are a great way to begin building individual connections, and they force the girls to learn and internalize and commit to memory facts and stories about each other, so to present them to the group. For this, I suggest that you use the breakout room feature on Zoom. If you are the host of a Zoom meeting, in the bottom right corner of your screen will be an icon that reads breakout rooms. Above the words breakout rooms, you'll see 4 boxes rearranged into a square. If you click on this, a menu on your screen will pop up that gives you the option to create random breakout rooms. This is the option you're going to want to take. Within this box, there is also a smaller box in which you can type the number of participants you would like Zoom to randomly assign to each room. If you have a smaller group, I suggest 2 per room. If you have a larger group, I suggest 3, but no more than 3. I also suggest that you allot 5 to 7 minutes for the completion of this activity. You can provide the groups with 2 prompts, with many prompts, but here I have provided 2 for inspiration. The first prompt is intended for groups of 2, while the second is intended for groups of 3. In the first prompt, participants are asked to spend the 7 minutes getting to know one another, and they are told that at the end of the 7 minutes, they are going to have to return to the group prepared to give an introduction of their partner to the rest of the group. So the girls will not be introducing themselves, rather somebody else will be introducing them on behalf of themselves. This means that in the 7 minutes, we can hope that the conversation is incredibly intentional about getting to know one another and speaking about the experiences that make that girl her and that give her her sense of identity. These are the types of stories and anecdotes the girls should be encouraged to share in this 7-minute exchange so that they can come back to the shared space with an intentional and meaningful and authentic introduction for their partner. The second prompt is better tailored for groups of 3. Again, I recommend that no more than 3 people are assigned to a breakout room at once. And this asks the group of 3 to find 4 things that every member has in common. This is one of the most effective icebreakers I have ever done in my time doing icebreakers, and Lord knows, that's been a long time. I chose this icebreaker because it forces a lot of conversation out of participants. People are sharing things from the number of pets they have, to the number of siblings they have, to the population of their town, to collective experiences at their high school. They're sharing a lot of things in the hope that one of those things can make up one of the 4 similarities that the group needs to have. A lot of conversation comes out of this activity, and it is an opportunity for girls to build bridges, but also distinguish themselves by providing one thing which none of the group members share. When 7 minutes is done, invite everybody back to the main room where the individuals can introduce their partners or the groups can talk about the things which they have in common and the one thing that is different for every single person in the group. As a second activity at a later session after you do the partner introductions, I suggest Kahoot Trivia. Kahoot is an online quiz game in which participants are provided with a code for a particular quiz. The participants receive that code, type it in on kahootit.com, or they can download the Kahoot app, and then the questions are projected on a main screen, and every participant to this quiz has the options on their phone or whatever device that they may be using and can choose the option they believe is correct. It is a timed game, and at the end of the game, the person that has answered the most questions correctly and that has also answered the most questions correctly quickly is awarded the top spot. This is a wonderful way to rile up the competitive spirit that many of your participants probably have, but it is also a very lighthearted, fun, high-energy game that can bring out the quirky characteristics of each girl. To facilitate this, I suggest that one volunteer sends an email to every participant asking them to reply to the email. Just make sure that they're replying just to the sender with their most fun, quirky, unique facts. These can be things like an embarrassing family story that happened at age 3, or it can be a baby picture, or it can be an embarrassing, unique story that happened just the other day, because we live embarrassing, unique stories all of the time. Any of the above. Just emphasize that it is supposed to be fun and lighthearted so the girls really lean into that and provide the most authentic and quirky facts about themselves. Once you have collected all of their facts, you can head to kahoot.com. I recommend that you make an account. Once you make an account, there will be a button up here on the homepage that says create, and you'll click create and it will take you to a blank template like this. You'll see that there is an option to begin typing the answer to your question, and then there are these 4 boxes in which you can type possible answers, one of which will be correct. So a fun fact that I might have submitted if I was a participant completing this activity is that when I was 3 years old, I tried to clean my crayon drawing off of the wall with a plastic bag. Whoop-de-doo, young artist. So you could make use of this fact in the following way. You could frame it as a question. What did Arian use to clean her art off the wall when she was 3 years old? Now, you can type in a plastic bag, which in this case is the correct answer, and click this little circle right here on the end. When it turns green, that indicates that you have chosen the answer which is correct. Now you can fill all of the additional 3 boxes. You can fill 1 box, you can fill 2 boxes. It doesn't matter as long as you have some kind of alternative which participants can choose. I've chosen to fill mine with a paper towel and a banana peel because at the rate I was going, all of those things were probable. Just get creative with this section. You can hit preview to see what it will look like. Now all participants will see this screen and they will have the option to choose any of these answers. When time elapses, the correct answer will be presented on the screen and it will register on the device on which they were playing if they have chosen correctly or not. I recommend the following just to make sure that this activity goes seamlessly. Make each question about a girl and be creative with the answer options. So at the end of the time, the girl can provide the story behind that fun, quirky anecdote that she shared. Feel free to add questions about yourselves. The girls want to get to know you as much as you want to get to know them. And last but not least, you should absolutely practice screen sharing and trying to play the game before the call. Your computer gets really overloaded when it has both Zoom and Kahoot up. So if you prepare it to screen share that Kahoot experience, it'll be a lot better. One thing that I recommend flagging is that Kahoot works much better if a participant has one device on which she is participating in the Zoom call and another device like a phone, a tablet, or an additional computer on which she is playing the game. It is much easier to do this way. So I recommend that in some discreet way, you ensure that every participant has at least two different devices that they can use for the time being, because the game is much more stressful than it is fun when you are trying to do both Zoom and participant facing Kahoot on the same device. Last but not least, this beautiful idea was presented by Dora, the current Distinguished Young Woman of America. It is modeled after an activity that she completed during her orientation. It is called Hopes and Fears because this is an activity that invites every participant to anonymously share a hope that they have about the coming year and a fear that they have about the coming year. I'll explain. You will be receiving these slides in addition to these materials, so please do not worry. But I recommend that you use this script to frame the activity for the girls. I also recommend that you devote an entire session to simply just this activity because it is incredibly profound and incredibly important activity if done correctly. So Dora recommends the following flow of procedures for this activity. First, it is important to introduce the activity. At the very beginning of the meeting, you can follow a script that is similar to Dora's, or you can amend the script in the way that better suits your audience in your own voice. After introducing the activity, you can send a Google form link in the Zoom chat. Now, it is incredibly easy to make a Google form. All you have to do is go to Google Drive, click New, and select the option to create a Google form. You can very simply title it Hopes and Fears. As you've already framed the activity for the girls, there's no reason to add a description. And all you need is 2 questions. What is your greatest fear about DYW or going to college? And then you'll add a second question. What is your greatest hope about going to college? Very easy. This is all you need. From here, you can select, we'll give it a title. You can select send, click on this little link, and then copy this link and send it right into the Zoom group chat. Now patiently wait until all of the girls have filled out their response in the form. Gently encourage them to reflect deeply before sharing very, very briefly. Say that they only need 1 or 2 sentences. Now, when everybody has submitted their responses, you can ask everyone to place themselves on mute, after which you will share your screen and preview all of the responses that have been submitted. Now, you don't have to worry that these responses will be attached to any name, because if you format the form the way that it is, the form will collect responses anonymously. So the girls do not need to be worried about revealing their identity. Now, one at a time, you can cold call the girls or just call out the name of the girl that you would like to read the first line. And line by line, you'll just go down the sheet reading out all of the hopes and all of the fears. I suggest that you start with fears and end with hopes. Dora also suggests that just because it's always nice to end on a happy and upbeat note. Between each response, pause and let the participants reflect. Don't have to share anything, don't have to say anything, just let them sit with their own thoughts. But essentially the idea here is to show the girls that everybody has really similar hopes and everyone has really similar fears. And that while these might not be the first things that we talk about or that we share with each other, they're the things that we are all experiencing as a collective. And when we complete such an activity, which anonymizes the hopes and fears, but still lets each participant know that their feelings are valid, their feelings are really, really similar to the feelings of the participant next to them, it really helps bring the community together and kind of seal the deal with a sweet bow that lets every participant know that she is seen, she is heard, and she has felt in much more similar ways than she may have ever anticipated. In this presentation, you will find links to the Google Forms used by Dora when she did this activity with the current class of representatives. You will also be provided with a link to Canva. Canva is a really nice PDF editing site in which it might be a really, really nice memento that if you have the time and bandwidth, you can go to Canva and collate all of the responses of hopes and fears into that Canva and then provide it to the girls to remind them of this incredibly profound sharing experience. Additional ideas based on feedback we've gotten from the girls and other ways and the other opportunities that Dora and I have had to put our heads together include providing contact and social media information to the participants as soon as possible. Girls really, really like to do their own research and reaching out to their fellow participants. So when you could provide them with this information and let them do some of the work themselves. It not only takes the emphasis and stress off you and your own path in facilitating community, but it also gives the girls a chance to just build community on their own, outside of the pressure-inducing eyes of alumna or program volunteers. Speaking of alumna, lean on your involved alumna to provide support. They can write letters to the current class. They can be members of Zoom panels in which they answer questions about senior year of high school, college, DIW, life, career trajectories, anything and everything. Our alumna are so wise and most of the time so willing to sit for a panel and answer the questions of current participants. Even though the girls might not be able to stay with host families, get the host families involved and pursue a program in which the host families still virtually adopt their participants. Set up Zoom calls for them, encourage the host families to send little gift baskets, getting to know you activities, and anything that might bring the participant into contact with her host family. And last but not least, remember that Zoom fatigue is real. There is definitely such a thing as too much Zoomunity. I really need to work on that. But there's definitely such a thing as too much Zoom. It's really taxing to sit in front of a screen and engage intentionally and meaningfully and fully with that screen and the people sitting on the virtual other side for many hours in a day. So don't be overzealous or be very cautious of being overzealous with the amount of activities that you would like to promote over the Zoom format. Some of the biggest takeaways I have gained from this experience thinking through these ideas and thinking about what it means to do something virtually are as follows. I cannot emphasize enough the first of these ideas. We are living in unprecedented times and we are all adjusting to the new normal. To help all of us through that transition, it is so important that we give the girls their own experience, that we try and avoid talking about what is usually or traditionally the case, that we refrain from mentioning if there wasn't COVID, then you would be able to complete activities X, Y, and Z. It is an unspoken truth that lives have been disrupted and routines are not allowed to persist in the ways that they have. And one of the best things that we can do for our current and future participants is to meet them where they are, to use Zoom or whatever virtual platform as the thing that we all have in common and build the experience from the Zoom ground upward. It is much less about converting what once was to the Zoom format and much more about inventing something that honors the limitations but opportunities afforded to us by Zoom and honors the fact that this is what the girls have, and so this is the experience that you should seek to give them. It is also true that the girls that will come through your program in the future will have a much are likely to have a much more significant experience with transitioning to Zoom and through Zoom than you. This means that they should be allowed to co-create the experience with you. If they have ideas, or if they are more familiar with the Zoom tools, or if they have seen something done on Zoom that they think would be really advantageous to the DYW experience, lean into that. Let them share the idea. Let them teach you. It is so important that we normalize co-creating these new experiences alongside our participants. And last but not least, one of the things that I love most about the Distinguished Young Women community is how extensive it is. The DYW community is so much more than current participants and program alum. It is the volunteers, it is you all that give life, body, purpose, and meaning to this experience. Please don't be afraid to use Zoom to bring yourselves, to bring the host families, to bring all of the other volunteers that usually occupy more of behind the scenes roles to them. Zoom, along with a lot of virtual formats, shrinks the distance that is often a barrier due to physical and geographic separation. Zoom shrinks that distance, brings us in the proximity of 1 or 2 clicks and a video call from each other. Lean into that. Don't be afraid to appear on Zoom. Don't be afraid to share your 2 cents of wisdom and experience and passion for the program in this format. Thank you all so much for putting up with my horrible puns and occasional tripping over words in the course of this presentation. If you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to reach out to me in the volunteer group. I will also ask Lisa to provide my email and my phone number for anybody who has more questions about how to make Zoom work or how to execute any of the ideas that I have presented. Dora, I would say but a huge credit to Dora. She has also come up with many more ideas and things to think about when transitioning Distinguished Young Women to Zoom, and both her and I would be more than happy to share those ideas with you. For now, I wish each and every one of you the best. Happy Zoomunity building, and I hope we are all reunited in some capacity very, very soon.
Hello everyone, my name is Debbie Duffin and I have had the good fortune of being part of the National Support Team for the past 2.5 years. Lisa asked me to present today about how I started the Regional Director Program in the state of Idaho. I was really looking forward to doing this presentation for everyone, and then we all know that we didn't get to be there. But I have found that doing it in video form has been a lot more difficult than I ever thought it would be. I started volunteering for the Junior Miss program, now the Distinguished Young Women program, about 35 years ago. I spent the first 4 years as a local chairman, and while I was still a local chairman, I was asked to be on the state advisory board. As a member of the State Advisory Board, I had the opportunity to meet with the incoming and an outgoing state chairman and present them with my idea of a regional director program for the state of Idaho. I presented a map of the state where I had identified the names and locations of all the local programs. I had then divided these up into regions, with each one including anywhere from 2 to 6 locals. The purpose of this program would be to increase the presence of communication and awareness between the locals and the state program. The chairman liked the idea, and the regional director program began. I realize that Idaho might be different than your states in the number of local programs that they have, but I feel like a similar program could be implemented in each state to help with the huge responsibility of being a state chairman. There are people out there that would love to volunteer in the Distinguished Young Women program if the opportunity is presented to them. So to begin, take a map of your individual states and divide it up into regions according to your knowledge of your state and your needs. Our next step was to outline what the possible responsibilities for this group would be, and we especially focused on what would be the most helpful to the state chairman. Some of the original things that we had talked about the regional directors doing would be that they would need to make every effort to attend the local programs that they were assigned to. And if they couldn't attend, they would try to contact another regional director to see if they could help them out. While they were at the local programs, they would support the local chairman in any way they needed. They would sit in on the interviews if possible and sit in on the final judging process. They would also check that proper guidelines were being followed. They would evaluate the programs and report back to state the wonderful things that were being done on the local level and any concerns that there might be. They would talk with each of their local programs and see if they had any questions or concerns that they could help with and make sure that state was aware of their needs. They would be there to take phone calls, answer questions, and help train new chairmen if needed. The regional directors would also work with each of the new representatives in making sure their paperwork was completed and submitted to the state program in a timely manner. Remember, when this started 30 or so years ago, we did not have the technology we have now, and everything was done through the mail. We would have regional orientation in the form of a potluck barbecue and group photo session in preparation for state. And the girls, their parents, and chairmen were there so that they could understand what to expect at state and ask any questions that they had about that week. The best part of these orientations was the one-on-one time that we got to spend with the girls, the parents, and the chairman, and the opportunity we had to just get to know them better. Many parents became part of the volunteer force after this experience that they had. We would submit nominations for state for recognition for outstanding programs, chairmen, etc. One of the best parts is we would make every effort to attend state each year so we could give the girls some extra support and try to help calm the nerves of the parents that were there. If there was an opportunity for a new local within the geographical area that a regional director was assigned to, they would give support in getting that local program started. And I was lucky enough in my region to help start 2 new locals, and it was really a great opportunity. These guidelines obviously are more for a state with a number of established locals. As you decide on what the responsibilities would be for your regional directors, focused on what would help you as a state chairman and help you to strengthen the Distinguished Young Women program in your state. Is it recruitment within those areas, education about what the program is, focus on at larges? You decide. What might work for each of you with regional directors will probably be completely different than what worked for us, but the result could be the same, a strengthened volunteer network of people who want to make a difference. After the beginning guidelines were set and we went about looking for regional directors for each area, we focused on past chairmen, volunteers, and past representatives. The roles were quickly filled. People wanted to volunteer and found out that this was a wonderful way to do so, but not so demanding and time-consuming as some of the other volunteer opportunities within the program. I personally have a great admiration for the local and state chairmen. So you have your regions and your guidelines. Let's find those volunteers. Look for people in each of those regions of your state to be your regional directors. Consider alumni and past volunteers, parents of girls that were representatives. Consider looking at organizations that encourage service. I personally got involved because my church encouraged community service. Friends, family, friends of friends, friends of family. Leave no stone unturned. There are people out there willing to help if made aware of the need and given the opportunity. They will get to meet new people, make amazing friendships and memories, but more than anything, make a difference in the lives of so many distinguished young women. The role of the Regional Director Program in Idaho has changed over the years, and each new state chairman implements it in a way that works best for them. The development of technology has improved communication for everyone. But the Regional Director Program is still strong because each local program looks forward to having that representation from state, and the regional directors look forward to being there and seeing wonderful old friends and making new ones and helping out in any way they are needed. There is nothing like having someone there in person. So please go ahead, get started, figure out what works for you, and go from there. Every journey begins with the first step. Let's go about and make a difference. I appreciate getting to share this with you because it really is very dear to my heart. I hope I have given you some ideas of how you might start your own regional director program in your states. If there are any questions that you think I might be able to answer, please email me at debbie@distinguishedYW.org. I miss seeing your awesome faces, and I miss probably eating too many Krispy Kreme donuts. And I really look forward when we're all together again next year. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Darity Van Orden Nicholson, the current state chairman for Idaho, and I have to say that I prefer speaking in person a whole lot more than I do talking to myself in this little recording that I'm doing. So forgive me in advance for bloopers and errors because this is awkward for me. As Debbie mentioned, Idaho has a regional director organization. I have benefited from the system since I began volunteering in Idaho 27 years ago. At the time, I was a local chairman in Idaho, so I benefited directly from having an area coordinator. They're now called regional directors, as she helped answer questions for me, resolved issues, and one year she even stepped in at the last minute as a judge because I had a judge that failed to show up. After 14 years as a chairman, I myself became a regional director in Idaho over Area 1, which at the time had 10 local programs. Now that's a lot of locals, and I have since split that area into two, Area 1A and Area 1B, so that each RD has 5 locals to cover. I loved the position of regional director, and I loved getting to know the local chairman and the volunteers. It's a really great opportunity to see how the other programs worked, and I enjoyed being able to help my locals when needed. It also gave me a different perspective because until this time I had worked with the girls and the parents, and now I was working strictly with the volunteers, and it gave me a whole different angle on how this program works and how amazing it truly is. Following several years as a regional director, I was appointed to be the state chairman. I recognized and understood the value of regional directors, having been one, and I know that communications with your locals is the best way to ensure everyone is on the same page and striving for the same goals, and regional directors make that communication so much easier. I personally meet monthly with all of the regional directors over a Zoom call to discuss how things are going in their areas, any news from the national office or our state board, and we share ideas and get feedback on ways to make DYW stronger and better in Idaho. I share their suggestions at the monthly board meeting, and I make sure to communicate with the regional directors about things that the state board or the national office decides. In addition to the monthly meetings, emails and texts, and occasionally phone calls that happen between myself and my RDs, we manage to tackle situations and questions that arise. This constant communication helps keep all of us unified and working together. As a state chairman, I have benefited from regional directors in the following ways. They communicate with the locals, so I personally am not answering calls, texts, and emails from 36 local committees. The regional directors are familiar with the guidebook and they've been involved with the program enough to answer questions and help locals with the day-to-day questions. They only bring the big issues to me. They also help with new judges, chairman. There's a lot of turnover in volunteer organizations, and a lot of the time, the outgoing judges chairman simply hands over the manual and says, good luck to the new judges chair. So regional directors help orientate the new judges chairman, they sit in on deliberation, and they ensure the judges chair has the help and the support that they need if they have questions. This helps ensure continuity and accuracy in all of the locals from year to year. Regional directors also give excellent feedback. They are in the trenches with 2 to 5 locals all year long, and they know their strengths and their weaknesses. They bring those observations to our meetings, and we all discuss ways to help with the weaknesses and ways to share the strengths with the other locals. I take the information I get from the regional directors and shape the annual state meeting notes to address the good things that are happening as well as the areas of struggle statewide. Regional directors' observations and feedback give me a great picture of how well local programs are adapting to changes, following guidelines, and involving the Be Your Best Self program in their communities. They make the committees feel heard. Committees will bring their concerns to their regional director, and then the regional director will bring those concerns to me. We discuss and address the concerns and make sure that the committees get the feedback and the guidance that they need. If the concern has to do with the board or the state committee, they are still addressed and responded to. Open communication is the key, and regional directors make that possible. They help with startups and at-large programs. I cannot be at every of the new local programs or all of the at-larges, but the regional director over the area can step in and help. They arrange for the judges, they help find venues, they offer fundraising ideas, coordinate practice facilities, step in as production or judges chairman when needed for the new startups or at-large programs to ensure that things run smoothly in the local program and that the community gets the support that they need and that the girls get the experience that they deserve, even in a first year or at-large program. They communicate with the local DYW and help her prepare for the state experience. They hold a barbecue in their area in which information for state is delivered about to all of the girls and their parents and the committees, and the girls get to meet the other participants from their area. They email the girls as needed to collect information. I send out an email of missing items to the regional directors, and they contact any of the local programs or distinguished young women on the list that are in their area to collect things. The regional directors help at the state programs. The week of state, we have a plethora of jobs that need done, and Idaho's regional directors step in to help with all of them as needed. They are the face of the program in the various communities, so seeing them at the state program helps parents and committees feel welcomed and familiar. Regional directors help grow your program. This is probably the most vital thing. An example is in Area 4, which is the Boise area in Idaho. We only have 2 local programs. The regional director in that area is constantly reaching out to people to get new programs started. Before COVID hit this year, she had 2 new chairmen on board. They are now going to have to start up next year after this COVID thing has passed, but she is taking the time this year to educate them and help them find reliable fundraising and reliable volunteers. As a state chairman, that's something that I can't do because I live 5 hours away from Boise, but it's a huge asset to our program to have regional directors looking for opportunities for growth. If you have programs that are far away from your state chairman or scattered all over the place, having regional directors in place will increase communication as well as give you boots on the ground in those areas to help recruit volunteers and establish new locals. I would encourage states to implement the regional director position if at all possible. The additional eyes and ears at the locals are invaluable, and having additional voices for positivity in your state is a game changer. Obviously, it's a valuable position in Idaho that makes my job as a state chairman 1,000 times easier. I cannot imagine managing this state's 36 locals without help from my amazing regional directors. If you have any questions or want to discuss things about it or ideas, I can be reached via email at idaho@distinguishedYW.org.
Gretchen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Lisa. It's nice to be here.
Volunteers, this is Gretchen Douglas, who is the chair for the Los Angeles County, California local program, and she has graciously offered to let me pick her brains and share some of her recruiting tactics that she uses with her program.
Nice to meet all of you virtually. I hope eventually in person. Sorry for the low lighting situation. We're dealing with technology issues today.
True. Well, why don't you start off today by sharing with everyone how large Los Angeles County's target market is, I guess, in terms of square mileage and some other things.
Yeah, happy to do that. So our Los Angeles County itself is 4,751 square miles. Our local Los Angeles County program covers all of that with the exception of 2 zip codes, which have their own local program. So we are quite large from a geography perspective, and I'm sure you can imagine and look at a map. It can take easily, in traffic, it can take 2 hours to get from one side of the county to another. So it's a very large geography.
And about how many schools would this huge area contain?
Have to check my have to actually count them individually to get an exact accurate number, but it's somewhere between 400 and 450 high schools, and that is both private and public schools.
Wow, that's so huge. You have a large number of participants in your recruitment pool and the large geographic space together. So you do a one-day program, correct?
We do, just because of the geography of our area. It's impossible to try to get people to commit that kind of time especially with the travel time, to get them to come for multiple days of a program in addition to, rehearsals and all of that. So everything is done virtually prior to the day of the program. We often do one optional rehearsal, just to work through fitness for those who wish to take advantage of it.
Gotcha. So how do you normally, in the past, have you recruited from this giant geographical and population standpoint?
Well, as I'm sure you can imagine, it's a challenge to try to connect with that many high schools and to try to get the word out, because I'm sure that I'm not alone in saying that awareness is probably one of our biggest challenges for distinguished young women. Once people know about the program, they're very excited about it, but getting the awareness out there is mission critical.
Mm-hmm.
So, what we've done in the past, it's a large undertaking and the information changes every year, but we keep a spreadsheet of all of the high schools and all of the counselors for those high schools and do our best to try to update that spreadsheet to the best of our abilities every year. And then what we use is the free version of MailChimp to send out email blasts to the counselors throughout our recruitment season.
Gotcha. And how long is your recruitment season typically?
Typically it kicks off around November. We always hope to start it a little sooner, but usually it takes till about November to, finalize our date and our location and all of those details. Our program typically takes place in somewhere between late February to late March, so somewhere in that month range. Well, you would expect a geography as large as ours in an area with as much financial resources as Los Angeles would have a robust budget. We've actually found that those of you who have smaller geographies actually do better in that regard. So we are a scrappy group, and we hustle to try to get everything donated, including our venue, which is why sometimes it takes us a bit longer to finalize that location.
Definitely understand that. So approximately how many applications do you receive a year, and then how many of those typically actually turn into participants?
Well, Lisa, I actually pulled those numbers. I'm going to pull them up for you right now. I looked at the last 3 years just for reference, because I know we're going to talk a little bit about some of the new things that we've done this year. For the class of 2019, we had 445 applicants and 20 participants. In class of 2020, we had 591 applicants and 20 participants. And for the class of 2021, we had 667 applicants and 23 participants. Now, we had to go virtual. So we initially, when the process closed, we had 33, but over the course of the time, with people just not getting their last documents in or choosing to withdraw due to the virtual nature, we lost about 10 girls over the course of about 6 weeks. But considering the circumstances, I'm not too surprised. But with that in mind, those numbers of applicants are only based on the numbers that actually apply during our open application period. That doesn't include all of the applicants that we receive for that given year once the application period closes. I did pull some numbers. I can't remember if it was for class of 2019 or class of 2020, but I looked through to go through my inventory, and it looks like we probably had a total of 1,000 to 1,200 actually apply over the course of the time that the application was open for that particular class.
So what changes? You said that you looked at your data from the last 3 program years. What changes did you implement this year for the class of 2021 in recruiting?
Well, one of the biggest changes that we made, and I'm sorry, before I step into that, I did want to clarify something just for the larger audience. Obviously that's a huge drop off in our applicant numbers to our participant numbers. And, we would expect that, because with the type of email blasts we're doing, I'm sure you encounter this in your geographies, as other geographies as well. a lot of people don't understand really what it takes to participate in our program. So we try to make sure that's real clear, and we have different milestones they have to meet in order for them to stay in participant status, because we find that once they realize how much they truly have to contribute of their time, it's not for everybody. And, I think we all know that. So I don't want a group of 100 young women participating in Los Angeles County. I don't know how I would manage that. I'd rather have 20 to 30 amazing young women that are really prepared and really excited about doing the program.
Exactly.
Sorry, getting back to your question, Lisa, with regards to changes. So as I mentioned, we keep a spreadsheet and we work on updating that every year. Well, unfortunately, not every website or every school's website, has the counselor's email address readily available. In addition, LAUSD, which is our largest school district in our county, they don't have their email addresses of their counselors available at all, and they don't use a standard naming process for those email addresses. It's not first initial, last name, and we could just come up with it ourselves. It could be first initial, second, middle initial, last initial, and some random numbers so there's no way we could make a guess at what those email addresses would be. So this year, I really wanted to try to make it a concerted effort to really try to reach out and get back in with the LAUSD group and try to find a different way to work with them. So did some research on their website, made some calls, and at one point I finally found a friendly voice, and she recommended reaching out to the district offices. They had a kind of like a counselor in charge for each district. There's six micro, or probably still not micro, still quite large, but 6 districts within LAUSD geographical. And those individuals then were able to outreach to the counselors at the various high schools that rolled into their individual districts within the district. So had some conversations with them. Unfortunately, wasn't able to talk live with everybody, but I did see that there was an uptick in open rate in MailChimp based on those mailings to those individuals. So while we may not have had a huge influx, because it also takes the young women wanting to apply and a counselor opening that email and getting it to them in a timely manner, our open rate definitely went up. And as you can see from the numbers I shared earlier, our applicant rate went up. Our applicant rate went up we had over 100 additional applicants, I believe, this year. So I think that proves that was helpful, in addition to the rest of the districts, because things go to spam and can often be lost. And some of these even smaller districts might have 5 high schools. It's still not a tiny district within Los Angeles County. So what I did is I found the superintendent's email addresses online. I'd reaching out to them and sending them an email blast, encouraging them to share it with their high school principals and in turn with their counselors. And there was definitely some interest there as well. So I think that, we're trying some different things, and maybe next year, there's an opportunity to just email the principals directly. I mean, that's obviously going to take some legwork to look up all those principals' email addresses and get them in the hopper. But I think that trying to think outside the box and ways to reach out to these individuals is really important. For us, it's not realistic to visit 400 high schools and do presentations. And I'm sure for many of you that do that now, that's maybe not going to be an option, this coming fall for your recruitment because of everything that's going on with COVID. So, hopefully, there's a lot of great resources out there that list like the superintendent's email addresses at the very least, if you can't find, a principal or an individual counselor's email.
That's really, really useful, and I can say from my end, just from the number of counselors who called the national office trying to get more information from Los Angeles County, I had a number coming in to like I said, to the national office. So I know that you were definitely reaching out to counselors who were telling me that this was the first that they had heard of our program and were very impressed. So I love your creativity in finding new ways into the school systems in your area, and I hope that that this is a tip and a tool that other people can use. Even with the pandemic shutdown and the move to the digital format, you saw an improvement in your numbers and both applicants and just in people being interested. And I think if you had a real showcase, I think your numbers for participants would have been good. Did you get any kind of feedback at your level from school officials?
Regards to our recruitment, that was all completed prior to the shutdown. So, we didn't, so from a recruitment standpoint,
Right.
That didn't really impact us. But I do think that, for us, we do try to reach out to the counselors again and invite them to be our guests and give them another touch point to attend our showcase. So I think that had our showcase happened, we might have been able to have some other counselors come and see what we're all about.
Okay.
And, I think that once counselors have a student that's participated and see what it's all about,
Mhm.
then they're great advocates for the program. I mean, we've tried that method with the counselors in the past. We don't have a lot, unfortunately, that take us up on it, but we had a counselor a number of years back, and she was just over the moon, and she was so glad she'd come to see it, and that this was a great opportunity for her students. And talking to one of our alternates this year, and she is. She's actually going to the state program. We decided because of the COVID and the pandemic, and we had such a high caliber of young women this year, we actually gave all of our alternates and finalists a choice if they would like to attend the state program. And she's taking us up on it, which is very exciting. And she said that her counselor is the one who let her know and how grateful she was. And she wasn't the only person from her high school that applied and not the only one that participated. So again, I think once you get somebody that's in and is excited to hear about it, then they become a great ally in us spreading that awareness that is so important to our program.
Right. Well, the tempo of the country also is, the new, better emphasis on being inclusionary in all forms of life, but especially here in our program. What kind of diversity do you normally have, and did this new recruitment process improve on your diversity and inclusion in your program, or was it just not enough time yet to know?
I don't know if it's enough time to see, but I would say this. I mean, our program, because of our large geography and because of the demographics of Los Angeles County, we're very fortunate that our program is quite diverse. And, I invite anyone who's interested to look at our Facebook page, and you can look at photos from our past classes and see, I mean, it's very diverse, and I'm quite proud of that. But I think that getting more folks from LAUSD is just going to continue to bring more diversity. There are certain schools, like, we have some feeder schools. I'm sure all volunteers have a few feeder schools that are, you have a lot of counselors that are very great about sending you students year after year. Unfortunately, though, I'm sure you also, whatever the demographics of that school is, if it's not a diverse population, then that can feed in not a diverse population to your program. But LAUSD itself, because it is the largest public school district, it has a lot of diversity. So I'm excited, that, we're seeing an uptick in interest from that district, because I think that's going to continue to just give us more diversity in our participants. I do invite everybody to, like I said, like our Facebook page or check it out and see what our program's all about. And, I'm happy to answer any questions about that too, offline.
All right. Well, I sure appreciate you taking the time to share your work that your committee. Oh, that's what I meant to ask earlier about how many people on your committee actually help you with the recruiting and participant coordination.
Not as many as I would like on recruitment. I'm actually currently recruiting a director of recruitment position, so I'm kind of filling in for that. I do have some people that help with some of the research, but I'm wearing that hat now right now. But the hope would be that I'll have somebody that can kind of take the lead on that here before too long. But participants, we do have a few members of our team that do work on that, and I jump in where needed, but I do have a dedicated person who deals with participants. So our committee is not huge, but we have a lot of great people, and it's just, I'm sure, again, other people encounter this too. It's hard. For us, our geography being so large, I joke that everything's independent study. We don't have a lot of meetings or gatherings, so you don't have to drive across the county. But it's a great group of people, but as the chair, I'd like to delegate a little bit more, hopefully this year.
Well, maybe this video presentation will also help. Some people will say, "Hey, I know some people who live in LA County," and knowing that you do use the digital platform to for the volunteers, hopefully that will net you some new faces and some new help. But
I
again,
hope so, Lisa. Thank you.
thank you so much for sharing your time, and we hope to see you and everyone else in Mobile next summer.
Fingers crossed.
Thanks again, Gretchen.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Rebecca Mitchell. I currently serve as the local chairperson for the Frederick County, Maryland local program for Distinguished Young Women. And I was asked to just present on Instagram and how to promote your local and state program through that social media platform. I am no expert by any means, but these are just a few tips and tricks that I've learned along the way, and hopefully they're able to help you too. So what is Instagram? It's a free photo and video sharing app. If you haven't seen it, it literally looks like a bunch of photos. There's over 1 billion active users monthly, and the largest age category demographically is 18 to 24-year-olds, and that's followed closely by the 25 to 34-year-old category. It's about 52% women demographically, and the top country that uses it is the US. So why use it for Distinguished Young Women? It helps you expand your audience to gain more participants, donors, and volunteers. It's a very popular site among the target age range, mostly participants. So if you are more on the Facebook side, that's actually kind of working its way into Instagram now. And it also helps you to gain credibility to show what the program is all about and show people who maybe haven't heard of it exactly what's going on. A little background, basic information about creating your page. First of all, you have to install the app. You will see me in this presentation. I'll go to the actual website of Instagram, but the app is going to be much easier for you to post, for you to see stories and other posts as well. So you want to make sure that you install that. It is free. Use the national guidelines for naming your account. So if you're a state program, it's going to be the state abbreviation .distinguishedYW. For example, that would be Alabama's. And then if you are a local program, then you will use your local name .state.distinguishedYW. So for ours, it's frederick.md.distinguishedYW. The next step is just to start making posts, and I'll go through a couple tips on how to make those posts, but just start doing them. You want to either inform, inspire, and call to action, and I'll go through those as well. And then just make sure that you're following the Distinguished Young Women guidelines for social media, and those can be found in the Representing Distinguished Young Women article in your library documents. And then another tip is just to start following other people, organizations, and local and state programs. So if you can see on this page where it says following under Distinguished YW, that's because I, as Frederick County, have followed Distinguished YW. So if you go onto a page, that'll be blue and it says follow. So you just hit that to go ahead and follow, and that's what'll show up in your main news feed on Instagram. So posts versus stories. They're two separate things, but all happen on your account. Posts are photos or videos that appear on your page and stay there until you choose to delete them. And you don't have to choose to delete them, but that's an option. But they are the ones that you actually see when you go to somebody's page. They have captions, and people can comment and like the post. Stories will show up as a red circle around your profile picture. That's how it indicates that you have a story to share or that somebody has a story. They don't actually appear on your page. They are there for only 24 hours unless you add them to your story highlights, which we'll go over. It's great for sharing any videos and photos that you don't want to actually post. It might be something that you just need to share or some information that you need to get out that you don't have to make a post about, but it'll show up and it keeps your activity going. The most important part is to just be consistent, whether you use it once a day, once a week, something consistent to keep people engaged and keep people informed. And stories are a great way to do that if you don't want to continuously post, but it's just important to keep active. So when you're designing your post, the first question that you want to ask is, what is the purpose? Is it to inform? For example, you're sharing program information. You show the scholarships, the accomplishments that the participants are making, any life skills workshops that you have or other events that are happening. You can make a post about those to inform people, something to inspire people. Maybe the impact that the program has had either in the community or on the participants. You can highlight participants, volunteers, donors. And then another option is a call to action. And this, I mean, any of these can be combined together, but this is just another option to inspire support and keep people engaged in your page. For example, stay tuned for a big announcement, or follow our stories for some highlights on our participants. You can make a post that just has that call to action that keeps your page active and keeps your audience engaged, and they know that something's then coming so they can keep watching for it. So choosing your photo for a post, the first question is, what are you sharing? What is your purpose? The second question is it eye-catching? So when you find a photo that shares what you want to focus on, what your purpose is, then you just want to make sure that it's appealing. It doesn't have to be the perfect photo, the perfect frame, but just, is it too dark? Does it look nice to look at? And that kind of goes into the next element of, does it match your photo theme? So when you look at a page, you want to make sure that the lighting looks similar, that the coloring is similar, that you don't put a filter on one photo that's very red looking and then the next one is very neutral. You want to make sure that they kind of line up. And then, do you have any pattern to your page, which we'll look into here. So these are a few examples of some different pages. The center is the DYW of America page that Dora's running. On the left, I thought that was a cool example. If you look here, you can see that there's quotes that she puts in every now and then. This is a photographer page. And then on the right here, I just thought this was a cool pattern that she will put some advertising, she'll put some inspiration quotes, she'll put some videos here, and then in between, she does these photos. But you see how all of these pages are great examples of just matching your photos. There's nothing that stands out as that photo doesn't match or that doesn't follow the pattern. The patterns are not necessary, but I just wanted to point that out in case you wanted to have a little fun with it, throw in some quotes on your page as well. It doesn't have to be all pictures. And just in case you're confused, this is a screenshot from one page. So each of these squares is a photo or one post that somebody has made. So next step is writing your caption for your post. The length can range. You could do a short 1 to 3 sentences. That's usually what's recommended for Facebook, but on Instagram, you also have the option of a longer post. So pros to a shorter post, it's easy to read, it gets a quick message across. This one is a great example. The caption that we put was just orientation for the class of 2021. Easy, people could read it fast, and the only issue is it doesn't share a lot. It's not expressing, oh, we had such a great time with the girls, they learned their fitness, we got to talk through the program, we're so excited to have over 20 participants. So you will capture your audience, but you don't necessarily get to share a lot of detail. So then you have the option of a longer post or a longer caption, almost like a mini blog. The pros are it tells a story and it shares a lot. Cons, you may lose your audience partway through. If it's too long, if there's too much information, you might lose them. So just figure out, what do you need to share? What do you want to share? I usually use the longer captions if we're highlighting one of the participants or we want to explain an event that we're doing. And then the shorter ones, it's just, if you're sharing a fun photo, you don't have to put a lot of detail. So you can just put a short caption on that. The biggest tip is just follow the DYW spirit when you're writing a caption. Make it encouraging, make it exciting, and make it celebratory, that you just want people to feel that energy and you want them to feel that that's what DYW is about. Some additional elements to consider: hashtags. If you don't know what hashtags are or you haven't used them, they're actually very useful to expanding your audience and getting more people to find your page than they normally would. So you can connect your posts with certain themes or subjects. For example, down at the bottom there, you see that on this post, we had hashtag distinguished YW, hashtag DYW 2021, hashtag fitness, hashtag scholarships. And if you're confused as to why it's a pound sign, it is. That's what hashtags are. But I'll show you in a little bit. When you actually click on those hashtags, it brings you to a link that shows all of the photos that have used that hashtag. So it's incredibly useful. For example, if you have hashtag scholarship, if somebody just searched scholarship in Instagram, it could pop up with that hashtag and they could see this post and get connected with you that way. It's also really useful if we want nationals to see the photo or just want to connect our program with distinguished young women in general. If you use those hashtags, your photos will appear with theirs in that grouping. Another thing to consider is tagging. So one option is tagging other accounts. For example, on this photo, you see we tagged DYW Maryland. This is an option when you're making your post. It'll say tag people. So you hit tag people, you search the account and just click them, or you hit tag people, you hit the photo somewhere so it pops up and it says, who's this? And then you search the account and tag them in there. It helps because it shows up on their account in their tagged photos section. So again, it helps you to widen your audience. If you have any organizations that you are working with, it's a great way to get connected with them. If they're tagged in it, then they're likely to share it, so then you get their audience as well. And then you can also tag locations. Again, an option while you're posting photos, it'll say add location. So if you add a location, especially a specific one, it helps a lot because it'll help connect your program to various spots if anybody's looking up a location. For example, with my photography business, I had somebody that just looked up Frederick, Maryland and photographer, and because I had tagged Frederick, Maryland in a lot of my posts or used a hashtag that says Frederick photography, they found me that way. So using locations is huge, and it helps those locations as well to feel seen and feel included in your post. So we've gotten through posts. Again, those are the ones that appear on your page. Now we'll go into a little bit of the stories and Instagram Live. So stories are the thing that disappears after 24 hours. You can add them to your story highlights to keep them on your page. You can be creative with them. You can add words, you can add stickers, you can add effects. And it's great to share images, information, or short videos that you don't necessarily want to post or you don't want to use the space on your page for. You're not going to run out of space on your page, but in case it's just something that doesn't quite match on your page or you don't want it to stay there forever, stories are great. And again, it keeps your page active without you having to post all the time. So if you are on your Instagram home screen, and I'm just going to show this to you on my phone here. So if you are on the main page here, if you just swipe this right, you get to here. You can see all this reflection. It gets to a camera that you can either choose to use one of your photos, or you can take a new photo or a video, and that's what gets added. That's where you can add it to your story. So an option on your story screen is doing live. So Instagram Live also disappears after 24 hours, but it's broadcast live. It's like a story, but it's happening in real time. So when you post it, you can't fix it afterwards. The only option is to delete it because it comes, it gets broadcast, everybody can immediately see it. To save the live video, if you're doing something, for example, we did our awards announcement on Instagram Live for our local program, and you have to save that video immediately after you finish recording. You cannot go back and download it later, unlike your stories. Your stories you can save afterwards. Instagram Live you cannot. So make sure that if you want to save anything, then you save it immediately afterwards. Instagram Live, if you're wondering what it's great for big announcements, Q&A sessions, if you want to do that with either one of your representatives or some of your participants. And it's just great maybe showing a glimpse of what a rehearsal would look like or some part of a performance. If you wanted to use Instagram Live during your show to showcase some of the talents, something along those lines. So some final tips and tricks. Don't overthink it. Post, see what happens. You might get 2 likes on one post, you might get 30 likes on another, you might get 400 on one. But the important thing is to post, and then you can learn how to detail your posts later to kind of work into seeing what the audience is looking for and seeing what times might be better for posting or what images might work better. So just post and figure it out. Partner with some local businesses and organizations. Again, when they're tagged in a photo, they may share it. So make sure that you're using that connection. Make sure that you're promoting other people, because then they're likely to continue to promote distinguished young women as well. Make sure you interact with your audience. So make sure you're liking and responding to any comments that people put on the post. Don't ignore it. If they say, oh, this looks like so much fun, you can like that comment. You could say, reply and say, yes, it was a blast. We had such a good time. Anything that you want, but just make sure that you're responding and interacting with the audience. And like and comment on other pages and organizations as well. There are some apps that can help you design and edit photos for posting. So for posts, I use Post Stylish and InFrame. Post Stylish just gives me some cool options that I can use to add photos, and InFrame lets me use the entire photo that I don't have to crop into a square. So it'll put like white strips on the side so I can use the entire photo in my post. But there are hundreds of options out there. You can just look up on your app store and search Instagram post maker or something along those lines. And there are lots of options. Those are just some that I use. And for stories, I use StoryMaker. It's very similar to Post Stylish. It gives me some cool creative options to put on my stories. And the only difference between Post Stylish and StoryMaker is that Post Stylish automatically makes it a square to make it easy to put into Instagram, whereas StoryMaker will make it the classic framing for your phone, basically. And then final tip, use the resources you have. Your participants and your representatives especially have so much knowledge about Instagram. Have them take over sometimes or send photos in that you can use. They have a vast knowledge and they're happy to share that. So use your participants, use your current representatives, any volunteers that you have that are really great on social media. Feel free to ask and make sure that you're using that as best as you can. So a quick note here, I just wanted to show you the Instagram website. Sorry, there's some sun on my face over here. Show you the Instagram website for the Distinguished Young Women page. And I wanted to show you this specifically to see this red circle around the profile picture. That indicates that there's a story. So you see how there's posts here, and they have a fantastic pattern as well. They have, of course, all of the highlights kind of lined up. So as they post more, these pictures are going to be in the middle and kind of framed by these highlighted pictures. And that's also a fun pattern to use. So they have all the posts here. And then in the story, if you click on the profile picture, this is their story. So they've got a feature on right now. And so that's not going to appear as a post. That's just going to remain as a story and then disappear after 24 hours, except they did use this, these are the story highlights. So all of their distinguished stories they've put onto their story highlights. So now if you click on any of these, then it'll show some of these stories. So again, that's a great way if you want to save the stories, if you wanted to do something, have some big announcement or anything, and you wanted to save it, it'll stay here, but you don't have to save your stories. It can just disappear after a little while. So I hope that's helped. I hope it was a little bit of information that you can use, and feel free to reach out with any questions to me or to Lisa or anybody else who's ready to help. If you need my email, it's frederick@distinguishedyw.org. So again, thank you so much. Good luck. Start posting, and you've got this.
Hello, wonderful people. Sorry about this. I'm taping this on my phone, videoing this on my phone, and if the phone rings, I don't know what's going to happen. But I want to answer the call. Anyway, hi. First of all, thank you for this time, and I am greatly appreciative to Ms. Burnett for letting me speak to you again. But the difficulty is, it's not live, and I can't hear your questions, and I love it when you ask them. But I just want to say how much I appreciate all that you've done to get us through this year. This has been unprecedented in the world. I don't think the world has ever experienced anything like this. We're all in this together, and in this pandemic, and then what's going on in our country, the heartache, the hurt, the loss, the disrespect, and just it's tragic and it's hard, but I'm hopeful and I hang on to that hope. I wanted to let you know that we did get some applications in for the production scholarship. We got those in, and those went to the committee. I've gotten a couple back, and they are really cool. I'm stealing some ideas. I'm excited about those. But I also wanted to just say what a privilege it is to knowing what I know, and I know I have no idea all that you have been through, but how you have stepped up to the plate like you always do and made this year happen. I can't even describe it. People know that I'm involved with the national program, and I get a lot of questions about it from people that I know, and I love talking about it. And I usually, well, if they don't bring it up, I will if they ask me something at all or indicate that they're interested. But it always starts with the volunteers and you guys and what you do to make this happen around the country and across America. The work that you do, that you are the boots on the ground that make this program happen. You are the foundation of what we all get to do. Without you, we could not do it. And to know that so many of you working full time, and yet you still pull it together and you find sponsors for scholarships, you raise money for scholarships, you put on a program, you do the logistics involved in is unbelievable. What you tackle with on a many times large scale with very little resources, in human resources and financial resources, but you make it happen because you believe in this program. Some of you participated, some of you haven't, but you know what it means. You know what this program stands for, and you have hung in there with us through thick and thin. And I cannot thank you enough for your level of commitment. I respect you all so much. I look forward to our time together each year, to get to spend some one-on-one time with you when I can. When I get to go to one of your events that I'm invited to, I love that because I love watching you guys, the relationships that you continue to build and you continue to finesse, and that the sharing of ideas and information with one another is just so cool, and it's just really neat to watch. And I've loved the interactions with you. I hurt, and I know you do. I hurt deeply that I'm not in Mobile. This last week and a half have been just horrible because I know what I'm missing to an extent because I've been there. and to not have that and not to be there when the girls arrive, and to see them go through these 2 weeks and watch them at the end of those 2 weeks and how they've changed and how they've stretched and how they've stepped outside their comfort zone in so many ways, but also to see how they bond so quickly. But I've gotten a taste of that this year because I am on their Facebook page and I get to interact with them some, but I also get to see how they interact with one another. And I see how if I throw a question out there for them or a challenge, they'll meet it. This class especially has been so active in responding and allowing us to get to know one another. But then to see them bond in a different way, but just as deep, this year has really been inspiring. And I always think about what you guys are missing, and it hurts. I know from a standpoint of the national program, the volunteers who are backstage, the even the crew that we hire, their level of commitment goes above and beyond, and it's selfish for them just like it is for me, because we get to see them in a whole different way when they go, before they go on that stage and before they come off that stage, in rehearsals, and watching them interact with each other and with the staff. And I also know the commitment of those people backstage and their level of care and concern, and how protective they feel for those young women and the respect that they have for them. I know that they're missing. There's so many levels of people. I think about the police officers who are not with us, our sponsors who don't get to walk on that stage Saturday night and Thursday night, Friday night to present the awards. All of the level of people, the restaurants that we won't get to visit this year, and I know they look forward to that. The sponsors who are not able to feel a part of it in a tangible way this year. It's a loss for the city. It's a loss for the host families. But we're all in this together. And just thank you. I wish I had words of comfort and wisdom, but like you, I'm struggling too. But I'm hanging in there because you are. And I receive so much inspiration and joy from that. If you have not connected with me on Facebook, please do, because I love following you and getting to know you all better. It means a great deal to me. And if you haven't, another reason to do that is because I don't know if you're aware of this, but back in February, my youngest son, who volunteers for DYW a lot and has done a lot of work for us, just because he cares and he just volunteers to do it, and he's very gifted at what he does. But he and his wife had twins, a boy and a girl, Luke and Lainey. They were born a month early back in January, and they're now 5.5 months old, and they are remarkable tiny humans. And I'm not going to show you any pictures because that would be obnoxious. I'm more comfortable with being obnoxious on my Facebook page because I do have friends and family around the country, and so they keep up with them. And I don't apologize for how obnoxious I am about it. I know probably some of you have grandchildren. You know people who have grandchildren. I knew people who had grandchildren, but I had no idea what it was like until these tiny humans came along, and I am fascinated by them. They are hilarious. They have very unique, distinctive personalities, but I don't know where I went with that. Where was I going? Oh, yeah. So if you're not on Facebook, please connect with me so I can keep up with you. I love being on your page. Again, I learned so much from you, but I cannot emphasize enough how grateful I am for all that you do and how you drive us to raise the bar constantly. And I need that. We all need that. But you are our biggest cheerleaders, and we could not do this without you. I hope you know that, and I hope you believe that, and please receive that. We're pulling for your girls. I'll be watching. There's a watch party Saturday night I'm going to. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to just being around people. I'm clearly not getting enough of that right now. But anyway, I'm grateful. Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to be to take this time. Lisa, you're amazing, and I'm so grateful for what you do and all the people in the national headquarters, the work that they've done and stepped up to kind of find their way through some really difficult times. I know you hurt. I hurt. I think it stinks. Please keep me posted about your on the page about your local programs. Post pictures. Post share. Just share, because I thrive on that, and I thrive on you. And I'm going to let you go because I'm pushing 9 minutes. Anyway, I love you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will announce this Saturday morning on your page, the winners of the scholarships. I'm grateful to those who participated. Don't know what we're going to do next year, but we'll figure out something because we know it's going to be very, very different, and we always want to keep an even playing field. Thank you. Please know how much I love and appreciate and respect each of you for what you do for these young women. I look forward to seeing you in person soon. I'm always here if you need me. Don't hesitate to call if you have questions or concerns, or if there's some way I can help you. Please don't hesitate to call. I mean it. And you can find me on Facebook and message me if you don't have my number. But I gave you all my number. I love you guys. Thank you. I'm pulling for all of them this week. I'll be watching right along with you. I love you. Thanks for everything. Bye.